black voters are losing faith in Joe Biden, and I do want to kind of just address this and talk about just voters in general, but we can drill it down to what you're talking about in this video right here, Nick, and let's play it.
People are finally leaving the Democratic Party plantation, and it's about damn time. Polls show that Black Americans are losing faith in Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. My reaction to this is, what the hell took you guys so damn long? It was Joe Biden and Barack Obama that tanked black wealth because of the way they handled the 2008 financial crisis. It was Jim Crow Joe who wrote the crime bill and created a police state that is occupying our communities. Black people are hammered by these anti-black policies, and we never get a black agenda because the black community rendered themselves completely irrelevant by voting for one party at around an 80 to 90% clip. Black people need to stop listening to liberals and establish our own self-determination as a political voting bloc. We need to say loudly and boldly that without any black agenda, there is no black vote. And the funny thing is, this is how every single community behaves. But for some reason, Black Americans are the only people expected to just give up their vote without any sort of policy demands. Every election, there is a bidding war over the support of suburban white women. Despite the fact that white women vote for Donald Trump twice, the liberal establishment keep blaming black men for Donald Trump winning. That's because liberals believe they own us. They believe we are obligated to support them. This is why we need a black-led third party in order to break away from the two-party duopoly as a people.
And to Nick's point, I mean, it's a great point that he makes. So actually, I won't specify it. Any reaction to the video, and then we can kind of ask a couple of more questions about what's happening with the numbers and with the numbers for Biden and black people. What's sort of happening in your diagnosis of that? If you can address both of those, please.
Well, it goes back to what we were saying about the polls turning in the Ukraine war. What have people gotten out of the Biden administration? There's all this propaganda as the most progressive president since LBJ, and he's going to cut child poverty in half, none of which was true. None of these things happened. They blamed Manchin and Sinema as if the rest of them aren't in league with the oligarchy that controls the Democratic Party. So Biden's in trouble. He never really had a base of support. The only enthusiasm was to get rid of Trump. It was never a pro-Biden movement as such. So now that he's the president, they keep talking on and on about Trump to try to gin up support for him. But black people don't have any reason to be enthusiastic about Biden. And, that these black Democratic operatives would allow themselves to be used in this way, it's really disgusting to me that they would praise black women vote more than men. All women in every community, women vote more often than men. So black women, like every other group of women, vote more often. So trying to play off black men and women against each other, trying to make black men the scapegoats for the failure of the Democrats by the fact that people can see through this propaganda and see through these lives is just so shameful to me. But black people, as the late Glenn Ford used to say, are stuck in the duopoly trap. The biggest fear for black people is Republicans getting into office. And all you have to do is raise that specter. It's up to you. And that proves, once again, they're not really political parties. Who blames their members for their failures? The Democrats do.
It's ridiculous.
So it's up to them to do for the people. They wouldn't have to worry about this enthusiasm gap. They wouldn't have to worry about it at all. But to your point, yes, nobody blames white women for putting Trump into office, and they vote like white men do, slightly differently, but slightly. So if you wanted to blame somebody for potentially putting Trump back in office, it ought to be white women.
Yeah, and the point I made in that article is the last one I want to drive home, because we are the only people that expected just to give up our vote. They talk about, what are you going to do? You guys got to talk about crime in order to win over the white suburban vote. Even they talk about Latino, they say you got to have some sort of Latino platform. But then whenever black people, even though they are still loyal to the Democrat for the most part, but the fact that even a small amount peel away and they melt down. And these are the hit pieces that are written about us. CJ, we are problematic. Why are more black men voting Republican? And then they always say black men are being brainwashed to shift to the right. They always scolding us. They always demanding why black people. Here's another. Why are black people won't vote Democrat? They put the onus on us. The onus is on us. Why won't you guys vote for us? Meanwhile, compare that to how they talk about any other demographic. Remember, they're like no anti-Asian hate bill, no Asian vote. Like that was what they were saying. And then this is the headline here. They take.
I think Margaret wants to chime in. Go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, it's just racism. It's just anti-black racism, and it just shows you how corrupt the Democrats are, how little legitimacy they have. That this is their argument, that it'll be your fault if Biden doesn't win. No, it'll be your fault if Biden doesn't win. And this, when they say more black men voting Republican, it really hasn't changed much. It's like 90% of black people vote for Democrats. So, it's a lie. And it's a very destructive lie, and it's a reason not to vote for them. And I'm urging black people to lose their fear of Republicans being in office. Let's look at what happens when Democrats are in office.
Right.
Trump was the nightmare, the racist who won because of his appeals to racism. We survived that. We're, he's not president anymore. I always want to say that it's like he's not president anymore. He hasn't been for 2.5 years. Stop. I was in a captive audience, so to speak, over the weekend at a friend's home who had MSNBC on. Every program talked about Trump's indictments. They didn't talk about anything else in the country, in the world, nothing. And it's just propaganda to try to, brainwash people into voting for Biden and the Democrats, who've done absolutely nothing. Democrats have not even spent money on the so-called down ballot races. They lost 900 seats across the country while Obama was president. One of the reasons every Democrats ought to hate Hillary Clinton is she was so sure she would win. She didn't, even if the polls were correct that showed her winning. Wouldn't you say, how do we help those congressional candidates? How do we help Democrats in those state houses? What kind of outreach should we do? It was of no concern to them whatsoever. And a political party that blames its losses on its members is failed, has no legitimacy, and it should be treated as such.
Democrats worry that black voters won't turn out for Biden in 2024. That's the headline. Now compare that to how they write about literally any other group. I'm not singling out Latinos, but this is what they do for everybody else. The new reality about Latino voters that Democrats must accept. The Latino surge for Republicans in the Trump era is real. Democrats need to adjust. You guys see how when they talk about anyone else, the Democrats need to adjust, fight for the votes. When it comes to black people, why are you not voting Democrat? Were you a coon? Were you selling out your own people?
You're not black. Isn't that what Biden said? If you don't vote for me, you're not black.
You're not black.
It's they know that we are the most reliably Democratic voters. And instead of treating us like that and asking, what is it you want us to do? What do you want us to do for your community, for the country? Because this is a top-down operation, because the people running for office are just errand boys and errand girls for the oligarchs, appealing to the most loyal Democrats is not something they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that because they might hear something that they don't want to hear. Well, you mean we got to do something for people? You mean the minimum wage ought to go up? We ought to do something about the homeless? No. So of course, all of this is proof of illegitimacy, and it's proof that black people need to stop.